Hey guys, your captain is back.
And in regular Revamping form this time.
A couple of months ago, I made a video where I fixed the retro tracks in Mario Kart DS, and it was a lot of fun to make. And I thought it would be cool to make it a series, since you see, every retro selection in Mario Kart had its fair share of weird or anticlimactic peaks. So let's continue this journey with the Mario Kart Wii video now, and I gotta say, this was a bit trickier than Mario Kart DS's retro selection, because honestly, I really like the Wii one. Sure, there are a lot of very bad picks that we are obviously going to change, but there are also a lot of very good picks, to the point that it kinda hurts to take out some specific tracks in this one. But there are still a couple of stinkers, tracks that feel out of place, and cops that are arranged in an anticlimactic way. So I'm gonna fix that in this new video, and here's a rule I'm gonna add. I'm not allowed to pick any track that I already used in my video where I fixed the Mario Kart DS retro selection. Also bearing in mind that just like in Mario Kart 8, I'm going to give actual revamps to most of these tracks. Now that all of the rules are out of the way, let's start the Shell Cup. The Shell Cup from Mario Kart Wii is already a massive improvement from the Mario Kart DS Shell Cup. The ladder was absolutely awful. The reason was simple. 3 out of the 4 tracks were just the opening circuits of their respective games, while Moo Moo Farm, the only exception, is still as simple as a circuit track.
Except there are cows!
On the other hand, the Mario Kart Wii Shell Cup is already much better because it's actually diverse. You have a beach track, a jungle track, a ghost track, and one of the more interesting circuits. But there are still some problems. Peach Beach, which is rather complex for a beginner track, being followed by 2 very simple tracks, just feels weird. And ending the cup with Mario Raceway, which is one of the calmer circuit tracks, wasn't the best decision either, because it doesn't fit at all, especially since it's not even that difficult with Mario Kart Wii's controls. Plus, I think that while this course is overhated, bringing Yoshi Falls back as a priority retro doesn't make sense when you have so many fan favorite tracks. Plus, I already used Peach Beach for my DS retro selection, so we're gonna have to forget it. So for my Shell Cup, I'm gonna try to pick more exciting tracks, and to change them so I can make them actually fun as well. And we're gonna start with N64 Luigi Raceway. First, it's mirrors Luigi circuit in the Nitro selection, but there's actually a bit more to this choice than just that. You see, I decided to start my DS retro selection with SNES Mario Circuit 1 and to end it with SNES Rainbow Road, and I think that the perfect idea would be to start each retro selection with the starter track from the next game in line and to end it with said game's Rainbow Road. Since Mario Kart 64 is the second game in the series,
Does this mean that the 64th game in the series is going to be called Mario Kart 2?
this means that for Mario Kart Wii's retro selection, which is the second one in the series as well,
Warning, the Super Circuit fans are not going to like this.
we'll already bring back Luigi Raceway and Rainbow Road from Mario Kart 64. Plus, Luigi Raceway's wide turn and the sidelines surrounding them are actually a good fit for Mario Kart Wii's new trick system and drifting system. However, I'm still going to give this track a glow up, because even with the nostalgia factor, Luigi Raceway is still kind of basic and doesn't have anything that stands out. This would easily be the most boring starter track in the whole series if it wasn't for Figure 8 circuit. So I think that it should get some changes to make it more exciting to play in general, especially with the game changer that is the trick system, which makes literally any jump way more satisfying to pull off.
Especially when to trick, you have to shake the Wiimote as hard as Peter Griffin probably shook Meg when she was born.
First, I could definitely see a city being present in the background of this track, maybe even make it the same city you go through in Daisy Circuit. Then, you would be able to drive on those blue walls that now have speed boost panels, just like in the Mario Kart 7 remake of this track. Except this path would end with an actual acceleration ramp to allow you to pull off a bigger jump. This turn would also go around a giant replica of Luigi's head. The biggest change in the track would be located after a tunnel though. because when you exit it, you get on a bridge, and there are no walls on the left side of the road, so you have to be careful not to fall in the sea. This bridge ends with a big jump, so you get back on the road. This track would still be the simple introduction to the retro tracks of Mario Kart Wii, but with the changes I made, it actually introduces the new trick system of this game. The next track is gonna be GCN Baby Park.
What? I thought you hated that track.
It's true. If you know me well, you're probably aware that I'm not the biggest fan of overly luck-based mechanics in Mario Kart or Mario Party. When they're used sparingly and balanced with skill or strategy-based mechanics, I think they work well, but I hate it whenever they shove down your throats, and I'm always the first one to sigh with annoyance when the roulette picks an RNG minigame in Mario Party. And yeah, Baby Park is anything but an exception. I know some people really like this track and it's fine if you do, but it's a chore to play for me. Nothing interesting in the layout, no particular skill involved, not even a teensy bit of strategy, just pure luck. Your victory practically only depends on how lucky you are with the items. But on the other hand, I know that many people like this one. And I kinda get why. The luck-based gameplay involves a lot of chaos that can make multiplayer games really fun on this track, and it's understandable how multiplayer enjoyers have a lot of memories of this track. The Bowser shells knocking everyone down, the blue shell created a temporary wall preventing all the players from continuing the race, the bananas flying everywhere. Personally, it's not my cup of tea, but I understand what people love in this track. But this begs the question.
Oh boy, here we go.
Why did they choose to remake this track in Mario Kart DS? Seriously, nothing in this game fits this track. The item system in Mario Kart DS is way more laid back than Double Dash, thus removing the chaos that originally made this track special. Without it, the track is just an oval with 5 turns. Yes, 5 turns, not 7, because then, due to the limitations, the background is just lifeless compared to the other versions of this track. Nothing moves anymore, some details are missing, and even the music feels a bit more laid back, which doesn't fit Baby Park at all. And of course, due to DS's handling, the whole course feels slower. And why the fuck is that at the end of the Banana Cup, halfway through the game? What? The ending of Banana Cup is supposed to be a difficulty bump to have the players get excited to play the second half of the game. Why isn't over here after Bowser Castle at the same place that will be occupied by Waluigi Stadium, Wario's Gold Mine, fucking Shy Guy Fox for Pete's sake in the Nitro sections? Why? Fucking why? Though as a kid, I always enjoyed this finale to the Banana Cup as a bit of a walk in the park after a long day at school. After Bowser's Castle, a finale in Baby Park with its easy layout and happy-go-lucky music always made me happy. It was like a kid's show and I always
Okay, cut it out. We're not here to talk about your nostalgia blindness.
yeah. The point is, this track didn't fit Mario Kart DS at all. But you know which Mario Kart game would be a perfect fit for Baby Park? Mario Kart Wii. Wii. I can't believe I'm outright saying that ruining this perfect game with this track is a good idea. Yes, I hate Baby Park with a passion, but in Mario Kart Wii, the crazy and chaotic item system would make this track much more chaotic, with the blue shell, the mega mushroom, the thunder cloud, and this way, it would actually appeal to its target audience, the players who like chaotic tracks, and just funny moments where the Mario Kart gods don't want you to win. I personally hate it because of how little control you actually have on the situation and how luck-based it is, but hey, it seems to be popular among a lot of fans for this exact reason, and having it at the Shell Cup is much more reasonable than at the end of the Banana Cup. Though if I wanted to go through 1 minute of pure chaos where we don't even know what's going on, I would just rewatch Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. Now, the next choice might surprise you as well, but I'm gonna keep SNES Ghost Valley 2. I understand that this track is very basic, but most SNES track would become just as simple as this one in a remake outside of Super Circuit anyway. And there are still some cool things to find in these tracks. the blocks that fall when you hit them, the shortcut, the small jump, the general atmosphere, and it's also short enough, so even though it's very simple, it doesn't overstay its welcome. But I also acknowledge that this track is very simple and that an overhaul will make it actually memorable. So first, this should probably be obvious, but I decided to add elevation to the track, because once again, when your game is in 3D, it's a bummer to not get the SNES and GBA tracks beneficiate from it, and instead keep them as flat as Terry from The Amazing World of Gumball, I don't know. But first, let's make the scenery a little more creative. First, this remake would take place above a dark forest.
Why so much green though? Everyone knows that green is not a creative color.
It would have some half-pipes on the side of the road, and you would also be able to see the haunted mansion above the road. You climb higher and higher until you get on a mountain. From there, you can take the normal route to go on the bridge above the river, or take the shortcut to jump above said river and gain some time. However, you need a speed boost from an item to go high enough to take this shortcut this time, because I think that since the original version could only be pulled off with a feather, it should be harder to execute it in the Wii version that we got, since there is no point in taking the normal path anymore otherwise. After this, you take some more turns before jumping on a destroyed boardwalk on the lake thanks to a ramp. You go from boardwalk to boardwalk, going higher and higher until you get back on the actual bridge. And at the end, instead of a ramp that many players may not even use to be sure not to fall off, I added a big jump as you reach the highest point of the track, so that this part would be a bit more exciting. This track is still pretty easy, but with the much darker atmosphere, the detailed scenery, and the more intricate layout, it's already a step up from the original version, and the two first tracks in the cup as well. Okay, I think many people will be surprised with this choice as well. I'm going to put Shroom Ridge, a track that comes halfway through DS's Nitro selection, at the end of the Shell Cup. I understand why many people would put this track later in the Retro section. The cause on it makes a game on this course harder, and the layout has a wide variety of turns. Sometimes it's smooth, sometimes it's sharper. But I feel like Mario Kart Wii's controls will make it a bit easier. Plus, this track's theme is still kind of basic.
Yay! Grass!
And in a way, with Mario Kart Wii's track selection being a bit taller than most other games, Shroom Ridge would fit here. So I'm going to put it at the end of the Shell Cup instead. It's also going to get some change, mainly in the midway open section. The first part of the track goes upwards as you climb a mountain. The open section is now snowy. I added big room to that big stretch of snow, so the shortcut is easier to pull off. I also added a more off-road, so I can take shortcuts more easy. Finally, in the ending part of this track, I added a small ramp and a bouncy mushroom, so I can take another shortcut to skip a long turn as well. This track is now more interesting scenery-wise, while still retaining the things that made it fun in the original DS version. I think this would be a really cool way to cap off the Shell Cup, and it would fulfill the task of making the player hyped up for the rest of the game in a better way than Mario Raceway, with its more unique theme and obstacles. So with these changes, we already turned a mid-Shell Cup into a memorable one. While I still think the original was okay, it had some problems with its inconsistency and its track selection. But this new version is much more consistent, with a difficulty that slowly increases and a much better finale than a circuit as well. Now, how to improve the Banana Cup. The Banana Cup is actually one of my favorite cups of all time, and honestly, I could almost jump straight up to the Heath Cup and call it a day. Because aside from Shy Guy Beach, which is a bit too simple to be this late, the other tracks are really great.
Oh boy, here comes his penguin obsession.
Sherbet Land is a really beautiful track with a fun layout, a gorgeous color palette, and adorable penguins. Delfino Square is one of the best tracks of all time, with a fun layout, an incredible theme, and a good soundtrack. And Waluigi Stadium is the perfect finale to the first half of the game, with its epic theme and its complex layout. But Shy Guy Beach is still kind of a pace breaker. I'm not opposed to the idea of having a more chill beach track in the Banana Cup, but Shy Guy Beach is just a circle. It's way too simple. especially when Sherbet Can is really hard for the Banana Cup. So we're already executing Shy Guy Beach and putting Sherbet Can later. Now what? Well, it pains me to do it, but I'm gonna remove Delfino Square as well. It's one of the best tracks of all time for sure, but I just feel like it would be even better in Mario Kart 8 Space Game, since it would just look glorious in HD with a more elaborate guiding system. Don't worry, there's another fan favorite track I plan to add in a later cup to make up for Delfino Square's sacrifice. But first, I'm gonna start the Banana Cup with another DS track that might surprise you. That choice is that I'm gonna move Desert Hills to the first slot of the Banana Cup. I know it's a very hated track, and a very basic one as well, being just an improved version of Dry Dry Desert from Mario Kart Double Dash, but when you look into it, this track is a perfect fit for Mario Kart Wii. It has wide and sharp turns at the same time, some hills that should be able to trick off of, and a great shortcut potential. But at the same time, I agree that it needs a go up too. After all, Desert Hills is still a very simple track. And as this, it's just Dry Dry Desert 2, and when Dry Dry Ruins is in the same game, it's hard to compete and stay memorable. Especially when it wasn't the Leaf Cup in the original game. Sure, it's more understandable than Baby Park halfway through the game, or Mushroom Bridge at the end of the DS Leaf Cup, but Desert Hills shouldn't be anywhere beyond the first half of the game. It remains a very simple track with not too many obstacles, and despite being sharp, the turns are definitely on the wider side. So I think the first cut of the Banana Cup fits this track way better.
Alright, pay the nod to Super Mario Bros. 3.
But even with a simple layered track, we can still make it pretty fun in its own right. First, instead of a simple water pit, the oasis will be much more detailed. There are some palm trees around the water and grass as well, so this pot would feel as lush as a real-life oasis. Then, there will be a bit more off-road in the pot just after the oasis to allow for an even bigger shortcut potential. Yes, I'm aware that this remake is turning into a bagging track so far, but the biggest change is present in the final stretch of the course. Instead of simple sandy hills, you enter a mountainous desert town. You'd pass near several houses while performing sharp turns. There are also half-pipes, because I felt like this spot was a perfect place to put some with the long yet sharp 90-degree turns. I also added some speed boosts, and this section ends with a big jump. This remake could be far more exciting to start the Banana Cup, with a more unique theme, more unique gimmicks, and a more varied scenery in general. Now we finally get to Sherbet Can. As I said, this was actually a really good choice for the retro tracks, and a track I love too, with its relaxing music, its fun layout, its varied scenery with a cave section in the middle, and its adorable penguins. No, seriously, these penguins are so cute. Look at them, Yuki, they're so cute. Ah!
Can you stop with your penguin obsession for 5 minutes?
So I'm gonna keep this track in the retro section, obviously. But first track in the Banana Cup? Really? I get that Mario Kart Wii's controls make the track easier than it was in Mario Kart 64, which means it wouldn't really be worthy of being in the second half of the game, but putting it in the slot that is usually occupied by the token Mario circuit in the Nitro trucks is still excessive. So I'm gonna move it to the second slot of the cup instead. It's too hard to be in the Shell Cup, a bit too much of a difficulty step up to start the Banana Cup, but at the same time a bit too basic to be in a cup any later than this, or even to end the Banana Cup. So having it as the second track is perfect. And despite what I said earlier, I'm still gonna pump the difficulty of this track up with a special gimmick. You see, I'm gonna incorporate a similar gimmick as in Grumble Volcano, which makes the whole track collapse. On the first lap, the track is similar to its original version, except that there are ice packs that make the road wider, making the turns easier to take. On the second lap, cracks appear on the ice packs, forcing you to trick off of them if you wanna go on them. But you also have to be careful not to fall off in the cave section, because holes have opened up in the ground. During the final lap, the ice packs have melted, blocking the road with rivers. You now have to take the new ramps that appear to jump above them. You also have to trick above the other rivers that formed in the cave section. I added 2 speed boosts at the start and end of the cave during all the gaps. This simple change would make Sherbet Hand much more unique, complex, and fun. And we keep the penguins! Ah, look at them, these penguins are so cute, TP, ow!
Okay, that's it. Let's talk about the next track now.
Okay, the next track is Cheap Cheap Iron from Mario Kart Super Circuit. Yep, this is the track that replaced Shy Guy Beach. While I admittedly like Shy Guy Beach's theme, it's also too basic. It's literally just a circle with some cannonballs occasionally falling, and I understand how their unpredictable nature makes the course frustrating for many people. Heck, when I was younger, this was one thing that prevented me from actually liking this course outside of the music. Yep, I really love this soundtrack and the general theming of Super Circuit's beach tracks, and I think that Cheap Cheap Iron would fit the second half of the Banana Cup much better. It's a bit more complex than the previous tracks, but not so hard that it feels off, and it's pretty laid back in its atmosphere, making it an appropriate calm before the storm. But this track still needs a revamp. I mean, for now, it's still a flat track with repetitive scenery, which is admittedly something to be expected from a track that originated from the flat Mario Kart game. But we're gonna need to make the scenery a bit more varied. So this track is gonna start with a section where you pass a small beach village. After the first turn, you climb a small cave before jumping out of it. Across the next part, I added some trickable ramps as well. Then there's a mountain section. You climb a rocky road before going on a half pipe and speeding down that same mountain. There's also a muddy shortcut that you can take thanks to the half pipe, which allows you to cut a big part of the track. This is still kind of a simple track, but the changes I made allow it to be more varied with more different gimmicks and a diverse scenery. Well, this segment is gonna be shorter. No alarms and no surprises. I'm keeping GCN Waluigi Stadium, and the remake will be the same one that we actually got in the game. It's the perfect ending to this cup. It's the last non-unlockable retro cup, so it works like a finale for the first half of the game. And with the intricate layout, the climactic stadium theme, and the catchy music, it does the job really well. I'd even say that atmospherically, it would kind of fit as the last track in the game, even if layout-wise, it's too simple to be in the last cup. So yeah, we're keeping Waluigi Stadium, because this way, the time of the day in the cup progresses smoothly. The morning in Desert Hills, the afternoon in Sherbet Land, the sunset in Cheap Cheap Island, and the dusk at Waluigi Stadium. And that's the Banana Cup. Honestly, even though removing Delfino Square was a reluctant decision, it turned out pretty much similar to the originals in terms of quality. The highs are still really high, but the biggest improvement is that the cup is also a bit more consistent, which is also something really important. Now, let's move on to the Leaf Cup. Unlike the Banana Cup, the Leaf Cup could really use a fix. It has one track that is too easy for this cup, being Desert Hills, and GCN Mario Circuit also has nothing to do at the end of this cup, because even though it's one of the harder Mario circuits, putting a track like this at the end of the penultimate cup of the retro section just makes for an underwhelming finale. So how to fix this? Well, first, I'm gonna catch 2 Pidgeots with 1 Geodude.
How do you use a Geodude like a Pokeball?
Oh shit, that's true. Well, eat 2 ducks with 1 can of spinach.
Stop, no, we're gonna get flagged by Peter!
Hit 2 cards with 1 shell. Happy now?
Yeah, I guess.
So yeah, I think we can all agree that SNES Mario Circuit 3 was a shitty choice for the Lightning Cup. A circuit track from a flower cup in a cup that's supposed to be an epic send-off? Yeah, that's just anticlimactic, especially when the track isn't changed at all, isn't very difficult, and isn't very interesting either. So here's my solution. We replace Mario Circuit 3 with Mario Circuit 4 and we move it to the first slot of the Eve Cup. It's not only harder, but the layout is also more varied than Mario Circuit 3, with turns that are sometimes smooth, sometimes sharp, and a road that can go from narrow to wide to narrow again, as opposed to Mario Circuit 3, which is just the same kind of turns all over and over again. But that's not all. We still need to make Mario Circuit 4 a bit more fun and distinct. I mean, for now, it's just the flat SNES track with no other theme than a Formula 1 race track. So how about this? We add an urban theme for this track to make up for Delfino Square, which I moved to Mario Kart 8. The first part of this track takes place on a road that goes between several skyscrapers, allowing for a half-pipe to be present here as well. Then, you climb stairs to go on the rooftop to race. In this section, there is a mushroom shortcut that you can take through the mud. The spot ends with the ramp that makes you jump off the rooftop, before you turn left to enter a tunnel. Here, you go through several speed boosts, then the sharp turn, then speed boosts again. The last section takes place in a park. You go through a green area that has grassy mushroom shortcuts, and in this spot, you also have to avoid Monty moles. This remake would probably be the perfect way to make an SNES track actually exciting, engaging, and surprising, with its slightly more unique theme, its elevation, and several gimmicks and obstacles that I added. The next track is the fan favorite from Mario Kart DS that I teased earlier, and it's gonna be Tick Tock Clock. While Waluigi Pinball and Delfino Square are great tracks, Waluigi Pinball fits Mario Kart 7's control scheme better, and Delfino Square should be remade in Mario Kart 8 instead, to have an HD remake. However, with the gears and the clock hands included, Tick Tock Clock fits Mario Kart Wii perfectly, as the trick system was still new at this point in the franchise, but I still believe that it deserves some changes. First, the first big clock you go on will be indoors. You can see a giant glass ceiling above you while going through it. The clock hands are now trickable as well. Those next two turns take place in an outdoors corridor, allowing you to see the sky out of the clock. Then, the gear section takes place in another corridor, and just like in Mario Kart 8, those gears are trickable. The next section now takes place on a broken clock's clock hands. You now have to use them as a bridge. Finally, I added a hole between the two metal rolling hills at the end, thus forcing you to go on one of them. This remake would keep the track fresh, allowing it to feel more alive and making it more varied, while retaining what made the original so good to begin with.
I don't know, I think it's kind of overrated.
GBA Bowser Castle 3 wasn't necessarily a bad choice for Mario Kart Wii, but the problem is, I already used it in my Mario Kart DS Retro Section remake, and there's another catch. We know that N64 Rainbow Road is going to be the last track in the Gaming Cup. This prevents me from putting N64 Bowser Castle in the slot, so I moved it to the final slot of the Eve Cup. Thus, I can't have two Bowser Castle in this Eve Cup, because that would be repetitive, so I had to shelve GBA Bowser Castle 3. So we're gonna have to pick another track that fits the Eve Cup's difficulty, and considering the other track's themes, the only course that has a suitable difficulty and a theme that wouldn't clash with another track and that I didn't use in Mario Kart DS is Ribbon Road. Like Cheese Land, which was a track I used to end my version of Mario Kart DS's Banana Cup, Ribbon Road is one of those GBA tracks that thrived on being one of the most unique courses in the entire series at the time, just with its theme. This track takes place on a giant ribbon in a place that's full of gifts in the background, with off-road sections made of the type of colorful paper you'd use to wrap a gift. I can't even tell where the original track was supposed to take place, and this isn't a bad thing. It allows for the track to be open for imagination. Is it located in the sky, in a castle, in a child's bedroom like in the Mario Kart 8 remake? You really can't tell, and this opens the door for so many ideas for remakes. So for my version, I'm gonna try to make this track a bit more grand. The first third of this track takes place in a village, with paper houses while you also pass a castle. After the second jump, you enter that castle from a window. This part has 2 half-pipes before you jump out of this castle from another window. In the next section, you can go down by following colored ribbons and regularly tricking from ribbon to ribbon, or you can use bouncy mushrooms. You then go back into the village to end this track. This track may be one of the biggest overhauls in the video.
Let's go on a journey through time. The time is changing all the time. It's time to go to time.
As to be expected, the finale of this cup will be N64 Bowser's Castle. This was an amazing choice for the retro selection. Its atmosphere is just perfect. It's ominous, yet realistic, with its dark rooms that constantly make you feel unsafe, while also being structured like an actual castle, the gardens that are making the track feel more lonely and scary instead of making it feel a bit friendlier, the infinite lava ocean around the castle. All of this makes for a track that feels very lonely, dangerous, unsafe, and thus ominous. A feeling that is only intensified by the music, with that demonic chore playing for the major part of it. But it also feels like an actual castle, where Bowser could live, fight Mario, and rule his kingdom. And that realistic side worked on me. When I was a kid, I used to think that carpet staircase was Bowser's bed.
Yes, when you were a kid, when the times were optimistic, when political anxiety with wars and even climate change was way lower and rarer, when you could actually feel hope for the future.
Don't mention this.
Also, gosh darn it, skipping up this thing looks painful for the back.
So anyway, since N64 Rainbow Road is gonna be the final track in the Grinding Cup, we can't put N64 Bowser's Castle in that cup anymore. So I'm putting it in the Yi Cup instead, so it can still work as a cup ender. I don't have much more things to say honestly. This track is amazing and I don't think it needs actual changes. So with that, we completed the Leaf Cup. This finally brings us to the Lightning Cup. Honestly, just like the Banana Cup, the original is so good that I could just replace Mario Circuit 3 with another GBA track and call it a day. Because DS Peach Gardens is a gorgeous track with a very fun layout and a very creative theme, GCN DK Mountain is a hectic track with a great premise and an intricate layout, and N64 Bowser Castle is, as we just said, a great finale with its ominous atmosphere and its very complex layout. But Mario Circuit 3 is still a really shitty choice for this cup. Not only is it way too easy to be this late in the game, as it only consists in mostly symmetric and repetitive turns, but it's also really basic too, with a completely flat layout and a very simple formulous one circuit theme. We all know that N64 Rainbow Road is the final track of this Lightning Cup, so I decided to put the SNES track in the third slot, to keep the 2 tracks in the Lightning Cup that we didn't change in the first 2 slots of the cup, and make the track that I plan to replace Mario Circuit 3 with more appropriate given its placement. And this time, we're starting with GCN DK Mountain. I don't have anything in particular to say about this one, other than this was a great choice for the Lightning Cup. It feels dangerous and hectic, yet it also feels like a calm before storm with the lush jungle theme and the more laid-back music. This is why I think it feels appropriate to start the final cup, as it's hectic but not as climactic as the other tracks I plan to add here. As for the changes, well, there aren't that many. First, I turned the summit of the volcano into an actual lava cave. Then, I added even more half-pipes to the track, most notably in the middle. And finally, there is a cave before the wooden bridge, with some water potholes you must avoid falling into. This track didn't get many changes, but honestly, it's so fun and hectic that it fits Mario Kart Wii perfectly. Let's continue with the second track, Peach Gardens. Yep, I'm keeping this one too. This was the perfect choice for the second slot of the Leaf Cup, because while it's pretty laid back, it also has a complex layout with a lot of split paths, various obstacles from chain jumps to Monty Mouse, and varied scenery with a diverse color palette. Honestly, this one doesn't need an overhaul. It's fun, beautiful, and engaging as is, so I think we can leave this one intact layout-wise. The only thing I request is that we make it look a little more vibrant, because seriously, why does this track look so bland in Mario Kart Wii? It's supposed to be a royal garden, so you'd probably expect something that looks a bit more colorful from this track. Otherwise, it's perfect as it is. Now for the SNES track of the Lightning Cup, which is the only true surprise track here. You see, this cup isn't the easiest thing to make. Since we only have 5 games to pick from here, one of the tracks has to be from a flat Mario Kart game. And what doesn't help is that most of the available picks are either too simple to be in the penultimate track or more suitable for an entirely different game. Except for SNES Bowser Castle 3. When I thought about this idea, I realized that this was the perfect choice for the Lightning Cup. First, while we already have a Bowser Castle in our retro selection, this one has a very different atmosphere, feeling much more chaotic. That's already a good sign. Its layout is very complex, and while being an SNES track, it's still really difficult, and it will stay that way in Mario Kart Wii, even better. And it has a good potential for a glow-up, which is perfect for the penultimate track of the Lightning Cup. In short, this is single-handedly the best choice for the third course of this cup. So here's how I'm gonna improve this one. First, the first turn is followed by a couple of speed boosts, followed by a big jump. Then, I added half pipes to this turn, to follow the big jump in a more smooth way. Then, we get a series of jumps on volcanic rocks. After this, you go through other turns with half pipes and a circular hole. Then, you speed through volcanic rock until jumping on a high tower. You then have to ride through 2 tight bridges with speed boosts. Eventually, you finish the track with 2 big jumps on floating platforms before finishing the course. This track may be short, but it's hectic, difficult, chaotic, and fun, although it doesn't get so grand that it ends up stealing the show for Rainbow Road, which are all the ingredients for a perfect penultimate track. And the long-awaited finale is the nostalgic, the beautiful, the majestic.
Rehoboam, you already told us what it's gonna be. You're burying tension for nothing.
Sorry, Grookey. But yeah, it's N64 Rainbow Road. Yeah. In my Mario Kart DS video, I thought it would be nice to start the Rainbow Road trend from the first Mario Kart retro section.
Once again, Super Circuit doesn't count.
So I put SNES Rainbow Road at the end of its Lightning Cup. But there is more to that. I then remembered that SNES Mario Circuit 1 was the first track in the Shell Cup in the original retro section, which I kept intact. So I thought, why not make a pattern for each game to have the starter course and the Rainbow Road being the SNES ones for the first retro section, the N64 ones for the second one, the GBA ones for the third, and so on, so forth. So for Mario Kart Wii, we are gonna remake N64 Rainbow Road. And to be honest, remaking this track was easier said than done. For me, the original version of N64 Rainbow Road is easily the worst Rainbow Road ever made. I get that it feels beautiful, emotional, and even a bit nostalgic, but this one is still way too long without any opportunities to fall off, without anything to make the track a bit more memorable visually either, and the worst part of it is, it lasts more than 6 minutes! And that's if you're in first place in 150cc. And despite the amazing soundtrack, when your track is so long yet it doesn't have anything of value except some easily avoidable chumps, it makes for a really underwhelming finale. Yes, when you're in a bit of a mood because of, say, a fear of death or depression, this track's atmosphere can hit you in the feels and actively make you feel good. But even then, as someone who experienced that, if I wanted a track that gives me an experience like this, I would just play the original 3DS Rainbow Road, or even Wii Rainbow Road, which is my favorite track of all time. So in Mario Kart Wii, we're gonna use all the available mechanics to fix this. The first thing I'm gonna do is make the track shorter. Instead of 3 laps, this track now lasts 2 laps, just like Wario Colosseum from Mario Kart Double Dash. With 2 laps instead of 1, it gets between 3 and 4 minutes with the changes I'll make to it, so it doesn't overstay its welcome that way. Then, the majority of the track won't have any walls either. Now, for the actual layout changes. The track will have several boost panels across a shaking road at the starting area, just like the one before the circular ring section in Rainbow Road. Then, you get to a colorful floating island with a shiny pond and a tree with pink leaves. After a complete turn, you then jump and trick on colorful items that are actually giant replicas of the one that represented each retro cup. First a shell, then a banana, then a leaf, and finally a lemon. You then land back on the Rainbow Road. After this, the big circular turn will have half pipes to make it more distinct from the rest of the track. Then, you speed on 2 speed boosts before doing a big jump. You land on Planet Mars. Yep, I took some inspiration from 3DS Rainbow Road into this track too. Just like the moon on this beloved track, Planet Mars will have chain jumps rolling around, except that it's slightly longer than the aforementioned moon section from 3DS Rainbow Road. Instead of a simple straightaway, this section is a longer U-turn with half pipes. You then enter a cannon and you fly in space for a couple of seconds before landing back on the Rainbow Road. For the final section, you enter and exit the sun 2 times. You have to avoid some fireballs in this part as well, and the road is surrounded by lava. You then end the track with 2 final jumps. This will be an epic finale to the retro selection, much better than the original N64 Rainbow Road. It's long enough to be memorable, but not so long that it becomes boring. And there are a lot of different unique gimmicks to make this track a true final gauntlet. This is the perfect way for N64 Rainbow Road to redeem itself in Mario Kart Wii. And with all of this, we kept all the track that made the Lightning Cup perfect, while making it a proper finale for the game with the Bowser Castle track as the penultimate and the Rainbow Road as a finale, which is a great way to end this. We are already at the end of this video. I must say, this time it was a bit harder to come up with a new selection than for the DS video, because while the original retro selection has some problems, I actually really like it as it is for Mario Kart Wii. I always thought that the tracks, while sometimes placed poorly, could at least make sense in the retro section, except for Mario Circuit 3 in the Lightning Cup of course. But hopefully, my new version eradicated the inconsistency and anticlimactic order issues that this selection faced. Next up is Mario Kart 7, and while we can all agree that this retro selection did a good job at bringing back good tracks, there are still issues that could be fixed, like in the Wii remakes. It sure is going to be an interesting one to handle. Feel free to give your own fixed version of Mario Kart Wii's retro selection in the comments. I'll be happy to read them. As always, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.
Bye bye.